Hello, everyone. Welcome again to the Leaders World, brought to you by Leaders World Institute, one of the schools of Leaders World University. And we are here today to talk unveiling strategies for sustainable educational empowerment. Yes, yes, yes. And we have experts in the studio with us. We're going to have Edward W. Gordon, who is a native of Montclair, New Jersey. And he is a graduate from the University of South Carolina. He holds a master's in music and a master's in educational leadership. And he is certified with the Department of New Jersey as education principal and supervisor of music. And he also holds a certificate of eligibility as a school administrator in New Jersey as well. All right. So for 25 years, he's been in the educational space, and he was one of the graduates of the Philly Plus School Turnaround Program, a selective residency program focused on serving underperforming schools. He's been guest on several talk shows, including Talk Leadership with Cedric Lafleur, Win with Willie, and the Black Entrepreneurs Institute show. He is also a contributor, a writing contributor to educational publications, including Juno White's 7 Leadership Question Anthology. He is an international speaker, coach, and trainer, with most recent work as the virtual keynote speaker at the National School Owners and Education Summits in Nigeria. He is the CEO of Gordon Leadership Academy, a company that coaches and mentors aspiring school leaders globally. He is also the founder of Gordon Leadership Foundation, which is a nonprofit that provides coaching, mentoring, and training for international school leaders in developing countries. And his motto is, if I can help anybody, then my living shall not be in vain. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me. Welcome to the studio. Principal Gordon, you're welcome, sir. You are welcome. It's so exciting to have you.
I'm excited to be here to share with your audience today.
And listen, they are all here. Friends, go ahead and share this, okay? You want to share this because this is going to be very, very highly educational, inspiring, motivational. You want to come with your notebook and your pen to take your notes. And we also have with us Dr. Adrienne A. Pagarigan, who is a highly dedicated and experienced educator and instructional leader with a vast and robust background in science education, educational research, and educational management and leadership. Her international experience has proven invaluable in integrating technology into instruction and conducting educational research to address achievement gaps among underrepresented populations. Now, she currently serves as the Magnet Schools Assistant Program Grant Magnet Coordinator for select schools in the United States, and she has an extensive career history where she has served as a classroom teacher, department chair, associate dean, assistant professor, showcasing her diverse expertise in various educational capacities. She is also a contributor and a writer. As a STEM grant writer and recipient for the National Middle School Science Teachers Association. In 2019, she was recognized as a Northrop Grumman Foundation Teacher Academy STEM Teacher Fellow. There is so much more I could talk about our guests today, but I know you want to meet them. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me. Welcome to the studio, Dr. Adrienne Pagarigan. You're welcome, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Dr. E. This is such a pleasure.
Yes, yes, yes. So when you heard about this topic, unveiling strategies for sustainable educational empowerment, Dr. Pagarigan, what was your first impression?
Well, it's really very empowering. I mean, this is sustainable educational empowerment. I think this is something we really have to have. And what comes into my mind is my experience, based on my experience as a foreign teacher here in the United States, who was raised from a different country, who has been to different public schools in different capacities, in different positions, and been a leader in different associations, sustainable education empowerment is something that I have developed myself. And now that is also something that I really would like to develop among my students in order to be successful.
Principal Gordon, your first take when you saw the topic and you were like, oh, what what did you think?
Yes. What I really thought initially about a sustainable educational empowerment, I thought about the fact that you have to have first a clear vision about what do you want in the future. And when you think about that clear vision, what do we need to have in place? Like, where are we right now? And what is that gap from where we are right now to where we need to go? And what do we have to put in place to actually get there? And there's many different aspects that you will need to put in place to make sure that you actually have sustainable educational empowerment. And that is through proper coaching, mentoring, professional development, and support to be able to have a nice, firm foundation that is going to be sustainable in the future.
Wait, friends, listen. This is already getting so good. I want you to share this, and we will be right back.
For your corporate and personal needs.
Leaders World Institute, changing lives, one leader at a time.
Dr. Pegarigan, you mentioned about sustainable education, and when you were talking, I was just thinking about what, in your opinion, do you think it really entails, sustainable education? Because this is part of what you practice. What, in your opinion, does it really entail?
Well, it entails about how do you empower your students? You know, and sustainable education means how do you empower, or how do you actually prepare your students in the future in order to become critical thinkers and be individuals who are responsible in the future and basically will take care of the earth. I am a science teacher, and thinking about sustainability in different aspects to me is different. I mean, to me, it's the same thing. It's keeping things sustainable, keeping things, maintaining things that will keep the future of the world, the future of us. So in terms of education, for example, how do we sustain our students, or how do we keep our students? How do we look at our students in the future? What are their skills? What kind of education do we provide in order to make them globally competitive, for example, in order to prepare them what is going to be the needs in the future? In terms of resources, for example, I am a magnet teacher, I'm a magnet coordinator, and I'm being funded by different resources, but I have to make sure there's a sustainability in the program that I'm handling, so that when these resources are exhausted, I have to keep it maintained and have to sustain its success, including my program and definitely the students that I am preparing. And that sustainability is. But in terms of me as a science teacher, I'm also thinking about the sustainability of the resources in our environment. How do we sustain it? How do we empower our students so that they can sustain the resources in our environment? So sustainability in education has so many aspects. Okay. But I think it's more about it's focused on the individuals that we are faced with. I am coming from the education arena, so the individuals that I am facing every single day are my students. How do I empower my students in order to keep a sustainable education to prepare them in the future? That's, for me, what sustainable education empowerment is about.
Wow. I love how you talk about the populations that we have in front of us at the time, because it's very obvious that what might work in one setting might not be what will work in another setting. And I was seeing you nodding your head, Principal Gordon, when Dr. Pegarigan was talking, and I was like, did you want to just chip in into that?
Yeah, there's so much that had been said. And one word that came to me initially was the word capacity. And we really have to create opportunities where we're increasing the capacity of our students, of our educators, and future educational leaders to be able to have this sustainable educational empowerment that keeps on building. And part of that is definitely having resources to provide differentiated professional development. And when I say differentiated professional development, is that we have to get out of the mindset that one size fits all. Okay, for a particular theme or topic that we want our leaders and students to grow on and develop, we might need to do a seminar for some of them, might be a book study for some of them. Some of them we might need to be able to send out to a conference to be able to grow. So we need to have that differentiated professional development. Another thing that Dr. Edgerlin mentioned that really resonated with me is the fact that we have to understand in our schools, in our districts, we sometimes have 5 different generations within our schools, okay? And also sometimes teaching multiple generations of teachers.
Right.
It's important for us to embrace the different generations, okay? And not put one generation to the side and put more emphasis on another. We need to learn from all of them, okay? As we talk about all these transitions that have happened in the world and society, we can learn from each generation, and each generation needs to be available and open to learn from each other, mentor each other, and support each other as we're continuing to build the capacity of our future leaders and our current leaders that are in our schools and also leading our organizations.
You mentioned something, Principal Gordon, when you were talking. You talked about we have to have a clear vision about what we actually want and where we're at. If I should ask you, where do you think we are as a society right now, as far as educational empowerment? Where do you think we are?
Yeah, we are not where we need to be. Okay, so I will start off by saying that there are some effective school leaders that really understand the value of vision, mission, having core values, setting clear goals. But I think one thing that is not consistent amongst our schools, in our school districts, and also our learning institutions is the fact that you need to involve stakeholders in the process. Okay, many times we're developing these visions and missions in isolation and not involving the various stakeholders that are impacted and influenced by what the vision is and what we have to put in place by our actions to our mission. They're not believing in our core values because they weren't involved in the process. And that is really key to really having the sustainable educational empowerment when we include the stakeholders in the process of developing a clear vision, mission, and our core values.
Wow. You know, while you're talking, I'm also thinking about like the public school systems, because I know private and public school systems have some differences at times. And it seems to me, and that's just my personal observation, that public school seems to have a clearer and stronger vision, and they actually actualize that and demonstrate it in their day-to-day activities more than maybe the government or public schools, because they're called differently in different countries. I don't know if that's what you observed, Dr. Garrigan, and how can maybe a leader that's in a public school system be able to bring that strong vision? Because I mean, even though they bring it, we know after 2 or 3 years they might be moved to another school and they might have to start all over again. What are your thoughts on public school leadership, government run schools, and leadership in those schools, and this whole vision situation?
Yeah, I really like how you asked that question, Dr. E. And that's because I have moved from one district to another, and so I've been in the education for like 30 years. So I have seen a lot of administrators and principals. My initial experience was actually with a private school. So looking into, to me, a leader in education has to be someone who is walking and talking of his vision. You know, someone who is able to follow up what he or she says. Someone who is very consistent with what he or she says. And I like what you said, Principal Gordon, that there has to be a sustainable educational empowerment has to be within the system. It should be working within the system. It's not only in isolation, where all the stakeholders, all those gears that make an education work should be involved and should be working together. The community and all of that. And so from one principal to another, if you transfer, if you move, you would see so many differences. And I have seen a lot of differences. There are principals who would say what they want to do, but they will not do it. That's the problem. That's the problem. They make a lot of promises. They say this and they say that, but the consistency is there. In order for a vision to be successful, one, you have to commit time, energy. Two, you have to make sure you are consistent. You are doing what you are saying. There will be obstacles, there will be barriers with the vision that you are trying to do, but you got to be persistent. You have to be persistent and consistent in doing that. Three, you have to have a collaboration, just like what Principal Gordon was saying. You can't do it by yourself. Success is not a success if it's only done by one person. It's not. It has to be a teamwork. It has to be collaborative. There will be dings. There will be some dings. There will be some people who would negate it, but you got to keep in mind you're leading your people. And when you lead your people, it has to be in your heart. It is a passion. And with the passion, whatever it is in your mind and your heart, it is shown in your behavior as a leader. And when people see that, they follow. They follow you without even forcing them to follow you, because they know that you are a leader who is persistent and consistent and knows your vision by heart and by action.
Oh, wow. Wow. You are a leader that is persistent and consistent. Guys, please put in the chat so we know you're there. Put persistent, consistent, persistent, consistent. Please put it in the chat so we know you're there. Put it as many times as you want. It's free space, okay? Put it as many times as you want. Let us know you're there. And if you have not shared this, please share it with your friends and families, your colleagues, even the ones you don't like. Share it with everyone. Okay. All right. Principal Gordon, tell us about this whole vision and how can leaders maintain a strong vision that aligns with sustainable educational empowerment in public educational spaces and in private educational spaces. How is this possible?
Yes, it's possible. And I just want to give some quick strategies about how to start this process. Okay. It's all based on strategic leadership and planning. And you start that by involving as many stakeholders as possible. And one way to do that is by starting off with a surveying your students, your staff, other administrators, your community members, your parents, gathering much information from those various stakeholders. Also, once you have that, move into having smaller focus groups where you have different perspectives to be able to talk about what the initial survey data is talking about and sharing and really diving deeper. Then the third level is to have one-to-one interviews with some key stakeholders to really dive even deeper about what is their perspectives and what's the feelings and emotions around the various topics you're moving forward. You need to look at data, okay? You need to look at student data. You need to look at attendance data from your staff and your students. You need to look at academic data. I know heavily on literacy and math. You need to look at your discipline data in reference to suspensions and referrals. All of this needs to come together in terms of this core data to be able to determine whether or not the vision that the school has been utilizing for many years is still relevant, or has it changed? Okay.
Wow,
and also, is our mission, how we're doing what we're doing to actually achieve the vision, is it still working? Do we need to adjust? I think that after what we have experienced as a world through COVID, if our visions about education are still the same before COVID that they are now, I think we have something to look at. This is a problem. Okay, the way we should be looking at education and connecting globally is different now with technology, and we need to embrace it and change our vision to be more relevant to our current needs of our students. And once we have the stakeholders involved in the process, we need to keep them along the process and let them know, all right, this is what the data says. This is our strengths. These are our areas of improvement. These are the actions that we're putting in place to actually move from where we are to where we need to go. And as you implement this, keep sharing them systematically, monthly, every quarterly about how you're progressing. You can't just get the information from them at the very beginning of this process and leave them out there. You have to keep informing them and communicate with them as you're going on this journey. That's how you're going to build consensus. That's how you're going to build partnerships. That's how you can keep everybody aware of what you're going through. And the last thing I'm going to say about this, I know there's a lot I can say about keeping people relevant in the vision. When you're in your school and you have a staff meeting or even professional development that you're having for your teachers, I want to encourage our school leaders, like, what part of the mission statement does your professional development or training relate to? Okay, put it at the top of the agenda. You got to always connect what you're doing daily, weekly, back to the mission. Okay, if there's not an alignment, then there's going to be some. Then you're going to have people that are like, "Why are we here? Why are we doing this for?" But if you always connect it to the vision and mission, they're going to see the alignment, and they're going to keep the energy and momentum going. That's really going to lead to that sustainability that you're looking for.
That sustainability that we are looking at. I like how you talk about strategic. I like how you talk about strategic planning and the importance of that, and how it's very important for school leaders to connect back to the vision and ask themselves, like, if you're having a meeting, what part of the vision does this connect with? And that's how day by day, week by week, month by month, leaders can ensure that they're actually building into that big vision that they have. How easy is this possible, given that school administrators move from one school to another, and sometimes they don't last in one school for very long, especially if it's like in a school which is not privately owned. What would you say about those situations and circumstances that are sometimes beyond their control?
Understood. And I believe that if you have a clear vision and a statement written out and mission statement written out, and stakeholders are a part of the process, if you are moved as a school leader or as a school owner out of that situation, it will still continue to move forward. Yes, you might have a new leader that's coming in that might have have some thoughts about new direction. But if you laid a strong foundation and it was really clear with the stakeholders before you left that school about why we're doing this, why we needed to do it, that information can be transferred over to the new leadership to continue the process. We have problems in education, and we don't have the sustainability when every 2 or 3 years we're starting over. That is not fair to our staff. It's not fair to our students. And our students need to continuously grow and progress in the right direction, and not every 2 or 3 years be stalemate and stalled in their progress.
Wow. So much to be said. Ladies and gentlemen, this in the studio is Principal Edward Gordon. He's a trainer, a leadership trainer, and also helps school administrators with their work. That is Principal Gordon talking with us. And we also have in the house a leader in the instructional and educational space, Dr. Adrienne Pegarigan. Dr. Pegarigan, what are some of the innovative approaches to teacher training that you have noticed in your wide experience nationally and internationally? Some of the approaches that you've noticed that are actually working with empowering teachers for sustainable educational moves.
I think one of the powerful approaches that we provide to teachers in terms of professional development is differentiated instruction. And I know you mentioned that, Principal Gordon. And that is the reason why we have to address students' individuality. We have to address in students, when I say individuality, we're thinking about their needs. We're thinking about their cultural identity. And this is where CRT, cultural responsiveness, comes in. And this is when we think about our race theory, all of those approaches. And I like how these approaches now are coming into light Because previously, I mean, I am a 90s, I graduated in 90s. This had never been a part of our vocabulary. I have never heard of those. I've heard of constructivism. I heard about Piaget, but I like how the modern strategies or the modern theories are coming out and addressing the individuality of our students. I think
Right.
those are very effective because we really have to make a connection of education and their culture, because that is when we're able to make a connection to our students. And when we tap on who they are and what they can bring to our classrooms, it actually brings them, the Bloom's taxonomy, right? We don't touch on the lowest level of needs. We're tapping actually the highest level of needs, which is self-actualization. And that's where we want our students to be able to realize who they are, be able to know and appreciate who they are, because that's how they success. That's how they become successful. That's how they succeed. And the only way, I mean, the effective ways that able to touch on those highest levels of needs is when we are making connections of what we teach every day and relationship with them to who they are in terms of culture, in terms of language, in terms of just being who they are. Because especially me, I'm in a middle school. And so middle schools, our students, that's the stage when students really need so much attention, because they're still trying to figure out who they are. But I believe that those are the strategies. Going back to your question, I believe those are the strategies that we always provide to our teachers: differentiation, cultural responsiveness,
Right.
and another like differentiation will include like grouping them, having small groups and then just talking to them as a class. I am more of PBL, like problem-based learning, so that they can develop their critical thinking, their problem solving. Because, as I said, one way to keep them empowered is when they know how to problem solve. We need to teach the kids how to problem solve. We have to make sure that they are creative. They're using their learning. They apply their learning into everyday decisions.
Yes.
To keep them have informed decisions.
Yes.
And I believe, again, those are the strategies that we do and we provide to our teachers.
Yes. Teach them to problem solve. Can we please put in the chat if you're here? Let us know you're here. Put it in the chat. And if you have any questions, Dr. Pegarigan, Principal Gordon, they are here to answer your questions. Put in the chat for me, please. Teach them to problem solve. If you're a teacher, if you're a parent, if you're a community leader, how are you training the young generation? How are you training the people that it is your responsibility to ensure that their capacity is enlarged? How do you do that? And I'm still on the same question, Principal Gordon, about the approaches, the innovative approaches, which have proven successful and really shown that, globally, these are approaches which are very, very good as far as training teachers and ensuring educational outcomes are sustainable. Principal Gordon.
Yes, one thing that is really key when we think about our students, as well as when we think about our teachers as adults, is the fact that they have a sense of belonging. That is really key in reference to students in our school buildings and also teachers in our school buildings as well. They want to come to a place of work, a school. They want to work in a district where they have a sense of belonging, that people are really taking time to know who they are, to understand their strengths, and they're able to be transparent about areas that they need to improve. And that there is administration, there's leaders that are actually listening to them and providing those opportunities for them to grow in those areas that they need improvement. And also, if there are areas that they are proving strength, utilizing them to be able to share their strengths with other teachers to be able to build them up. That's the type of environment that should be created in every school setting.
Wow.
To be able to sustain and retain quality teachers. And many times that's not happening, and that's what's really needed. So when we think about, this type of professional development and learning experiences, when you're able to be in an environment where you can share your strengths and gifts with others, you're going to stay. And also where your leadership understands your needs and provides various professional development for you to grow, that is going to help with the sustainability.
Listening to you, I hear you focusing on the being part. Like, how are we treating ourselves? How are we treating the teachers we work with? Do we treat them in a way that makes them feel like they have a sense of belonging? Do we treat them like we actually know them? We allow them to be transparent? Do we listen to them and provide opportunities for their growth and improvement? That's what I'm hearing. So it's not just about throwing teachers into the classroom.
Yeah, I think that I never really experienced this as a leader, but I think I've heard about this concept that it was like more of like a factory system, that you're in a school, you're producing this product and you're moving on. I've never experienced that as a leader, and I don't think we should. We're all humans, and it's all about relationships, okay? And really getting to know each other. And when you develop relationships from peer to peer, meaning student to student, or even teacher to teacher, student to teacher, student to administrator, administrator to teacher, administrator to student, administrator to parent, it's all about relationships, okay? And when we understand how to develop and how to communicate and talk to each other and learn from each other and respect each other, that is where you're in an environment that you want to be in. Okay. Yes. You want to learn, you want to grow. And if you have this type of relationship, you have less conversations about suspensions and office referrals and attendance challenges. Students want to be, they're going to wake up to come to school because they know that when I go there, I have a teacher or another staff member that knows my name, that cares about me, that respects my culture, my thoughts, my ideas and dreams. That's going to wake them up, the students up in the morning, and bring them into your school setting. That's going to do the same thing for those students. That will also do for the teachers that you want to come there. And I'll say for superintendents that are listening, okay, when you have this type of environment for your principals, they're going to stay in your district and want to grow and develop as well. So it works at all levels. And I'll take it even further for Board of Education members as well, okay? When you're creating an environment where you're really trusting the superintendents that you're put in a position and listening to their vision, they're going to stay as well. And we can stop the madness of superintendents leaving every 3 years. That's another topic. But
that's another topic. Because we are there already, I'm just thinking maybe we should talk about the elephant in the room, which is teacher attrition. And teachers always, we know that it has gotten worse in the past 3, 4, 5 years than it was ever before. Dr. Garrigan, why is it so, and what can be done to help teachers who actually love this job? Okay, of course, we are not advocating for anybody that doesn't love a job to stay there. Okay, right. But some people really feel like this is their calling, like they're called to be teachers. They want to be there, but somehow they still have to leave. They still have to leave. Something makes them leave. How can we help these situations and encourage teacher retention?
I like how Principal Gordon mentioned about relationships.
Yes.
Because in any system, even if you as a teacher, I'm sorry, I have some coughing, but
you'll be fine.
Yeah, it's very important to build relationships in a system. And I think that's the core. That's the core of maintaining and sustaining teachers in the classroom. Now, aside from that, I think there's also other variables that impact, teachers, keeping teachers in the classroom. What has happened, like for example, for COVID, what has happened, that's also a variable because it's not only that it impacted the teacher's life, but also the student's life. Imagine our, I'm sorry.
You're good.
Imagine our seventh graders now. 4 years ago, where were they? They were fourth grade, they were third graders, and they were confined in a small room in their house by themselves. Didn't have any socialization at all.
Mhm.
That was a learning experience for them, which was very new during that time.
Right.
And it affected their relationships, not
Mhm.
only with their classmates, but
Mhm.
well also with their teachers. And that affected how much they are now, how much they are now behaving in our classrooms. Does
Mhm.
that affect the teachers? Of course. It's affecting the relationship with the teachers. The problem is when they come back to the classroom and the teacher is having a hard time building that kind of relationship as well. Because
Mhm.
now the teacher has a different set of students in the classroom. That is one variable that impacts a teacher.
Right.
That impacts a teacher's load, everyday load. And therefore, there's so many things that impacts a teacher now, being sustaining or keeping herself within the classroom.
Mhm.
But for me, being a teacher is loving what you're doing. And
Right.
that's what keeps teachers, regardless of what's going on in the classroom, to stay where they are, is loving what you're doing. You cannot pour anything out of an empty cup.
Okay.
Just like that, right? As simple as that. There's nothing you can pour out of an empty cup. If you don't kind of passion and love for children and cannot build and having hard time building a relationship with the kids, understanding where they are coming from, why they are coming to you,
Mm.
and where do you want them to be, it's hard to stay in your classroom for 8 hours with so many variables and so many problems that's right in front of you as a classroom teacher. That's hard. But again, it's the passion for the kids that's keeping you alive and standing there no matter what. I'm not an ideal teacher. There are days when my classroom is bad. There are days when I really have a conversation with kids. Be quiet. I'm not an ideal teacher, but what keeps me in there in that classroom is because I love the kids. I think that's the recipe. Now, with teachers attrition, the reason why teachers are leaving is because we have so much we when you're coming from a university. I taught in a university in a teacher education program, and I molded my kids, molded my students' brains that this is what ideal classrooms look like. And when they step into the real classrooms, they
Boom.
they get scared. They're traumatized. That's the word. They're traumatized, right, Principal Gordon?
Yes.
They're traumatized because
Maybe sometimes.
right, me and I take that responsibility because when I was a professor, I would say this is how your classroom should look like. Your lesson plan should look like this. This is classroom management. But then when they put into practice, that's where the problem is.
Wow.
See, that's part of the attrition as well. How do we prepare our teachers
Mm.
to be in the real classrooms? What is the reality in the classrooms? That's hard for a university professor to teach what is going on in the classroom. The connection between theory and practice, it's still not in there. There's still a huge gap between. And so that's part also of a teacher attrition.
Mm.
The other part of teacher attrition is that they're giving so much loads for the teachers that everything is given to the teachers' responsibilities.
Wow.
I, I, like for example, if there are policies, if they are just school-wide policies, for examples, before they implemented to the teachers, and I'm going to circle back to what Principal Gordon said, that when you think about the policy, when you think about the vision, the gears in a system need to be involved. And for some reasons, there are policies that are developed on the upper level without consulting the teachers who are really carrying the load of implementing the policy. And that's when the load of the teachers become even heavier on top of everything that's going on in the classroom.
Wow.
As exhausted as a teacher is, it's easy to walk out of that classroom. And that's bad. And that's one of the factors that's causing it.
Listen, friends, if you're listening to us, this is so good. Dr. Pigargan is over here dishing out gems for us to understand what's happening so we know how to bring those solutions. If you are a teacher in any capacity, listen, Sunday school included, okay? Sunday school included, church pastor included. If you're a teacher in any capacity, university professor, please put in the chat for us, teacher. Let's know you're here, and let's get your ideas. Share with us what you think about what is the cause of teacher attrition and why many well-meaning and nice, teachers that really want to do a good job with our children are forced to leave. Principal Gordon.
Yes, this has been a wonderful conversation, and it really goes back to, it starts off with the why. When I'm coaching educators, school leaders, and they're feeling this pressure from all sides and wanting to leave the profession, we just need to take a step back and really ask the questions about what's the why. What was the why that actually got you into being a teacher, becoming a school leader, becoming a superintendent? And when you're able to list that and really talk about that, then it's the conversation about what are the things that are in the school or in the system or even in your classroom as a teacher that are causing those distractions from the why. Right. And once you identify those distractions, then it's a matter of working with a coach about how can we eliminate these distractions so that we can get back to the why that wakes you up in the morning to come into work and to do the work of serving the teachers as well as the students. And that's really key. The other part of it, Dr. Egeline was mentioned, is about we got to look at the level of support that is given to our teachers, to our administrators. Yes, it's a good example. You could be in a pre-service classroom learning about curriculum and instruction and classroom management. And then when you get into your first job and position, the reality sets in, okay? That not everything that was stated works out that way. You are creating a great vision in the schools and universities about what should happen. But we have to understand that it takes time for our new teachers to develop the skill set to actually make it come to a reality. And many times our schools do not have the support in place of effective enough coaches, enough mentors to support these new teachers. And that's when they're feeling frustrated, and some of them are leaving the profession before 2 years are even up. And when you're talking about, Dr. Egeline, in reference to our students that are in seventh grade 4 years ago at home during COVID, lacked the social skills, and now they're in school and they're having some challenges, is two things that are happening. One is the fact that we need to provide the effective professional development for the teachers to understand these challenges and that our students that are in this grade level are experiencing because of the lack of experience they had in terms of developing their social skills, and now they're in our classrooms. The second part is providing more activities for our students to develop these social skills that they missed 4 years ago while we're going through COVID. And this is where I'm saying that we want to be so stuck on what is being accomplished in terms of literacy and math and moving forward and getting ready for the test score. But if we don't take care of the social interaction piece, teachers can't teach, and we're not moving forward anyway. Okay. So if you had a vision for how much time you were going to utilize for literacy, how much time you're going to utilize for math, and what social skills group you had in place 3 or 4 years ago, now you might have to take a shift. Okay. A little bit less time in terms of the literacy instruction, less time on the math instruction, and probably even more time on the social skills instruction right now to get back on track. Okay. Because we understand we keep pushing forward the literacy and trying to teach the students where they're not paying attention. They want to socialize and they're craving this socialization, and we're not getting any farther with our literacy or math curriculum. Okay, and then if we take a step back and address what the students are crying out for, I believe that we're going to take even greater strides in the future. And
And you know that brings us back to that strategic reflection piece where you talked about knowing exactly what the needs are, and I think Dr. Pegarigan also mentioned about knowing what the needs are and knowing exactly what needs to be done in specific situations. I heard you saying something about teachers as being coaches to their students. And in my mind, I was having two questions, Principal Gordon.
Mhm.
Teachers as coaches, and do all teachers also need coaches?
Mm-hmm.
Teachers as coaches, and do all teachers also need coaches? Friends, if you're watching, please put coach in the chat. I like that word. I don't know why. Put the word coach in the chat. Coaches, teachers as coaches. All right. Yeah.
I'm gonna say yes and yes. Okay. And what we have to understand, I think, is also to take an opportunity to define coaching. Okay. Coaching is when you're actually asking questions of the other person to really bring out what's already inside of them. So they have their own aha moments, their own realization, and really identify where they are right now and what action steps they need to take systematically to get where they're desired. That's for the students and that's for the teachers. And yes, our teachers need coaches as well as our students need coaches. And we talked about before, that sense of belonging, that sense that someone listening to me, that I'm being heard. When you develop teachers to be that are asking the right questions in their classrooms to students, groups of 15, 20, some classrooms of 35 students in there, but as the teacher being seen as that coach, asking effective questions, it is really going to be helpful for the students in the future. And also, it's setting the foundation right now for students when they see their teacher as a coach. I believe that they're going to start understanding the importance of having a coach in their life in the future. And for me, I learned the hard way. It's a point where I didn't have a coach and I didn't have a mentor in my life. And I got terminated from a position as a school principal because I didn't have them. And once I learned that I needed a coach and I needed a mentor, I had to learn what a coach was and a mentor was. I got both of them and I got back into leading schools. And now that has driven my work now to be a coach and a mentor for school leaders in the United States and also internationally, because I never want any other school leaders to go through what I went through. Coaching is important.
Wow. I never heard this part of the story, Principal Gordon. This part of you actually doing what you're doing now because of what you went through. Wow. This is very, very empowering. Thank you for sharing that. Dr. Pegarigan, teachers as coaches and teachers needing coaches. Do all teachers need coaches?
Yeah. Do all so let me break down your question.
Please do.
Are teachers coaches as well? Or do teachers need coaches? So teachers, yes, and yes. So teachers coach. So we coach our students. And I do a lot with my students. We coach them because these students, they need the basic skills. They need skills. And, as simple as when they ask for a pencil, can I have a pencil? And my next question is, what's the magic word? As basic as that, you're already coaching the basic skills, the values, and all of that. Now you're coaching. I like how you define coaching, the word coaching, Principal Gordon, because you asked the question. So what's the magic word? And then realize, oh, I'm missing it. Please. So I like how you define coaching. But basically, this is what we do as teachers, is to coach our students because we are developing them as an individual in entirety, as a whole individual. And we are not teaching them only intellectually, but we are teaching them in different aspects of them as a person, as an individual. Social, emotional, intellectual, and all the other aspects to become an individual, someone who is able to carry on his life after they leave, after he or she, or after these kids leave your classroom. Do teachers need coach? Yes, definitely. I was just listening to one podcast this morning, and I like how you mentioned, Principal Gordon, that we leaders need coaches. I need a coach. I am now a doctor. I know I'm a doctor of education, but I also need a coach. I need a leader as a coach to coach me as a leader. Yes, we do need a coach. And do veteran teachers need a coach? Yes, they do. Because whatever level of teaching we are now, whether we are veterans or whether we are just starting in the profession, we need a coach, because I'm going to circle back to what Principal Gordon said. The society changes, it's very dynamic. Your vision has to change. I mean, your vision is the same vision, but the strategies are flexible based on how the society is changing. And because of the society, because of that flexibility and fluidity of the society, your strategies change as a leader or as a teacher. Before we really don't need technology like this, but now we need it. And therefore we need a coach to teach us. It's very viable now. But before, we don't need it. And therefore, any strategies that we do have, whether veteran teachers like me, I'm 30 years now in the education, I still need a coach. Or a teacher who just step into the classroom, we need a coach. Because as I said, we need to respond to the changes in the society as our children are changing.
Wow.
The population is changing. Wow. The diverse needs of our students is changing. Yes. The society itself is changing.
Yes. This is so good. Put in the chat for me, everyone. I need a coach. Yes. Please put as many times as you need to. I need a coach, or just the word coach. I love it, and Dr. Pegarigan, you just took us into a question that I've been thinking in my mind about, how the sociocultural, economic, technological landscapes are changing. And also Principal Gordon's testimony about how he's now doing his practice of teaching and leading and coaching supervisors and teachers so that they can attain those dreams that they have as far as school leadership. And you give us your experience about what happened and how coaching helped you to be where you are right now and to do more for others as well. And I like how Dr. Pegarigan also talked about changes, and where you are today is not where you want to be tomorrow. If you are in a position now, you're looking forward to maybe expanding, maybe becoming, having another position where you can leverage your talents, your potentials, and be able to bring value to many more people. And then the need for maybe mentoring and coaching comes in again. And then Principal Gordon, you've been doing this a lot. Can you tell us about how these changes in sociocultural, economic environments, technological changes, even bring us more to the need for adapting to these changes and needing coaches and needing further training? Just your comments on that, please.
Yes, I believe it's two things. I'm thinking about my answer here. I think that it's probably, I'll say in terms of three parts.
Yes.
One is the fact that with effective coaching, it's going to really open yourself up and the person you're working with in terms of having a growth mindset.
Okay.
And with the growth mindset, that is allowing you to learn new things and understand the importance of learning new things. Okay.
Right.
So it might be as the way that you were teaching literacy in the past. Now things are different with technology, and also you have to embrace artificial intelligence now when it comes to literacy and how to really work that into the classroom. So the first part of it is definitely having a growth mindset to learn and to be able to expand your knowledge. That's the first thing.
Mm.
The second thing is to be in an environment where you're learning, that you're learning through webinars, seminars, you're going to conferences, you're in various book studies and groups, you're in various networking organizations, professional organizations, where you're actually learning these new strategies, which is really
Wow.
key. And the third part of it is you need to have a coach to be able to talk to you and ask you questions about this new information that you're learning, because you can have limiting beliefs based on your generation, how you grew up, how you were raised, how you were taught. There's many things that impact the lid that you put on yourself, and
Yes.
also you moving forward and growing. And you need a coach to be able to ask you questions to help take that lid off, okay, so that you can increase your capacity and learn new ways, new systems, how to connect with the students of today, which are the students different from before, and be able to really have a greater impact. And that's why it's important to have the growth mindset, be in environments where you're learning, and have a coach to help you navigate this journey in education.
Listen, effective questioning is at the heart of coaching. So guess what? We're going to do it to one another right now. Put in the chat for me, what are you learning right now? How is it aligned with where you want to go? Put it in the chat. What are you learning right now? Put it in the chat for me, please. Put it for me in the chat, please. What are you learning right now? Also, don't forget to give us stars. It helps us to keep bringing this type of content to you, because after this, we're going to throw it in all other social media platforms, and it's all out there for free. That's why we truly, truly appreciate our leaders who choose to come here to hang out with us and to just share some thoughts so that we can bring value to you. Is anybody saying thank you to Dr. Peguer again and to Principal Gordon? Anybody saying thank you? Put in the chat, please. Say thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you have a question for them, please put that question in the chat as well. My question that is to you, Dr. Peguer, again. How can students themselves be actively involved in shaping and sustaining their own educational empowerment journeys? Your thoughts on that?
So the students themselves can be agency of student empowerment. I mean, sustainable educational empowerment. They can be. But we as teachers have a big role to do that. We as teachers have a critical role to play in order to develop them to become an agency to become an agency for empowerment. Just like I have mentioned in the beginning, we get to develop them to be problem solvers and critical thinkers.
Okay.
And they become agency of empowerment, whatever decision they make, in their lives. They're able to apply what they're learning. There is some application of what they're learning, and their decisions become informed decisions. And that's what we want them to be. And I think that's where sustainable education empowerment is, and how it looks like for a student.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Because we have a limited time left, my question is to Principal Gordon at this time and the question is, in your experience, what would you say are some of the major barriers to sustainable educational empowerment? What are some of those barriers, and how can we surmount them?
I think one of the major barriers is just the idea and concept that we know it all.
Oh,
True.
Okay. And with that, it's not allowing to open up the opportunities to receive coaching, to receive mentoring, to even learn new information. I think that what I have experienced, that those that utilize my coaching services, I consider myself a third-party coach. I'm not connected with a school district, Most of my clients hire me individually and they pay out of their pocket. And with that, there's a level of transparency that comes with my work, that they're able to be really transparent of everything that they're going through. And I'm able to coach them to be able to be more effective with those that they're leading, but also because I don't report back to their superintendent, assistant superintendent, I can help them to coach and lead up as well to be able to impact their environment. And if we're not open up to learning and not, we have this mindset that we know it all and we don't need help and support, that's the ultimate barrier right now. There's that one is I think the high priority right now in education is that we have many leaders that believe they know it all and are not seeking collaboration, partnership, coaching, and mentoring to do better.
Wow. Know it all. Put in the chat, guys. Put in the chat. I'm thinking out loud. Put it in the chat for me. Know it all. Dr. Pegarigan, what are some of the barriers that you notice as far as sustainable educational empowerment at a global scale? Looking at different areas of where people are at on the globe.
I think just like I would agree with what Principal Gordon said, is that not having the kind of thinking that we need to change. There has to be learning that's going on. And sometimes we're just stuck into one location, into one perspective, that we don't look at others' perspectives. And we don't grow if we don't let our minds grow, if we don't have multiple perspectives, if we don't make our perspectives wider without understanding other people.
Yes.
That's the biggest barrier. We cannot have a sustainable education empowerment if we say, I know everything. I don't have to go to PDs. I am the best teacher in this school. I don't think we are going to move forward if we do that.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And because we are rounding up at this time, there are people that are going to watch this just because they saw you on the show, Dr. Pegarigan. What would you tell them as far as unveiling strategies for sustainable educational empowerment? What would be your final words to them? Some of them may not be teachers in classrooms, but we all know that in one way or the other, we are all educators in one capacity or the other. So what would you tell them as your final words on this show at this time?
As a practitioner, I would say we need to make sure that we're empowering our students to become the agents of change and create a sustainable future for everyone.
Thank you. Create a sustainable future for everyone. Correct. What strategies do you have in place for that to happen? Principal Gordon, there are people that are going to come watch this just because they saw Principal Gordon on this show. And what would you tell our wide variety of audiences who listen to the Leaders Well? What would you tell them as far as unveiling these strategies for sustainable educational empowerment? And also remember that there are people that might be watching this who will not be in the classroom, but we know that we are all teachers in one capacity or the other, and we are influencers in one capacity or the other. What would be your last word? And it doesn't have to be a sentence. Speak from your heart. Dr. Pegarigan, that was quite brief. I was waiting for more, and then
I will keep mine as brief, as simple as Dr. Edwin as well. And the key thing is one, for educators, no matter what your role is, you need to have a growth mindset. Always wanting to grow is very important. The second piece is to get a coach in your life to be able to support you on an educational journey. And the third and final piece, make sure that you're in an environment with others that want to grow, want to do better, and want to be able to share resources to be able to help you. And you can also share your resources with them so that you can be the best performer school leader, educator that you possibly be, and get the results that we all desire for the students that we serve.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we are. Vision, growth mindset, students as agents of change, coaching for the students and coaching for teachers as well. And we'll see you next time. Thank you for hanging out with us. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
For your corporate and personal needs.
Leaders World Institute, changing lives